The crystal chandelier cast fractured rainbows across my grandmother's carefully set table as Detective Sarah Chen watched her father-in-law point a trembling finger at the young woman serving cranberry sauce. "That's her," Grandpa Morris wheezed, his 92-year-old voice cracking with fury. "That's the thief who ruined my life." The sterling silver ladle clattered against fine china. 23 pairs of eyes swiveled toward the server, a petite woman in her late 20s with nervous hands and a name tag reading, Celeste. She froze mid-pour, the crimson sauce suspended in air like a held breath. Sarah's husband grabbed her wrist beneath the tablecloth. "Don't," Tom whispered. "It's Christmas. He's confused again." But Sarah had already cataloged the tells. Celeste's pupils dilating, her weight shifting toward the kitchen exit, the micro-expression of recognition that flashed across her face before professional neutrality locked back into place. Whatever this was, it wasn't dementia speaking. The doorbell chimed, an aggressive staccato rhythm that made everyone jump. "I'll get it," Sarah said, rising from her seat. Through the frosted glass panels, she could make out two familiar silhouettes. Her stomach dropped. Those were police uniforms. She'd called in sick today specifically to avoid the precinct's sad Christmas shift, yet somehow the job had followed her to her grandmother's townhouse anyway. She opened the door to Officers Ramirez and Kowalski, their expressions grave. "Detective Chen," Ramirez said formally. "We got a 911 call from this address 30 seconds ago, report of a theft in progress." Sarah's mind raced. She'd been in the dining room the entire time. No one had left the table to make a call, except Celeste, who disappeared into the kitchen the moment Grandpa Morris made his accusation. "There's been a misunderstanding," Sarah started, but her grandfather's voice boomed from behind her with unexpected strength. "No misunderstanding. That woman stole 60 years of my life, and I want her arrested." The officers exchanged glances. Kowalski's hand drifted toward his radio. The situation was escalating fast, threatening to shatter the carefully constructed piece of Christmas dinner into something that couldn't be reassembled. "Everyone stay calm," Sarah said, slipping into her professional tone despite the absurdity of mediating a family holiday in her emerald cocktail dress. "Grandpa, why don't you tell us what happened?" But Celeste emerged from the kitchen before he could respond, her server's apron removed, her posture transformed. She no longer looked like someone caught. She looked like someone who'd been waiting for this moment. "Morris Klein," she said quietly. "After all these years, I didn't think you'd remember my face." The dining room fell silent. Even the children stopped their fidgeting. Grandpa Morris's papery hands gripped the table edge. "Celeste Duchamp, you were 19 years old when you destroyed everything." "I was 18, Celeste corrected gently. "And I didn't destroy anything. I saved myself." Sarah felt the story's weight before she heard it, that particular heaviness that settles over a room when old secrets begin surfacing. She glanced at her grandmother, whose expression had shifted from confusion to something Sarah couldn't quite read. Recognition, maybe, or dread. "Grandma," Sarah asked, "do you know what this is about?" Her grandmother's perfectly applied lipstick trembled. "Morris, please, not tonight, not in front of everyone." But Morris was already speaking, his voice distant, lost in 1962. "I was a different man then, ambitious, working as a manager at Duchamp's department store in downtown Philadelphia. Celeste here worked the perfume counter. Her father owned the store, old money, real power, and she was beautiful." "I was a kid," Celeste interjected, her voice harder now. "A kid who said no." The words hung in the air like smoke. Sarah's detective instincts assembled the pieces with sickening speed. Her grandfather, the man who taught her to play chess, who sent birthday cards with crisp $5 bills, who cried at Hallmark commercials, had been someone else once. Someone who'd made a young woman's life hell. "You accused me of theft," Celeste continued, addressing Morris but speaking to the room. "Claimed I'd stolen $3,000 from the register. My own father believed you over me, his trusted manager versus his rebellious daughter. I was arrested, prosecuted, convicted. I lost 2 years of my life to prison." You were guilty, Morris insisted, but his conviction wavered. I was framed. Celeste pulled out her phone, fingers flying across the screen. For 60 years, I lived with that conviction. Lost my inheritance, my family, any chance at a normal life. But 3 months ago, I hired a private investigator. Amazing what digitized records and fresh eyes can uncover. She turned the phone toward the officers. That's a deposit slip from December 1962. Morris Klein depositing $3,000 into his personal account, the exact amount that went missing. Same day I was arrested. Officer Ramirez leaned in to examine the screen. Where did you get this? Bank archives, public record once you know where to look. There are more documents, forged inventory reports, a witness who's finally willing to talk, another employee he threatened. I filed an exoneration petition 2 weeks ago. Sarah watched her grandfather's face collapse. Not with shame, she realized, but with fear. The fear of a man whose carefully constructed life was crumbling. That doesn't explain the 911 call, Kowalski said, or why you're serving dinner at the Klein residence on Christmas. Celeste smiled thinly. I work for Elegant Events Catering. Pure coincidence that I was assigned to this house. Or maybe fate. As for the 911 call, I made it the moment Morris recognized me. I've been waiting 60 years for a witness to my confrontation with him. Now I have a room full of them, and 2 police officers as documentation. This is entrapment, Tom said, his lawyer instincts surfacing. You engineered this confrontation. I served cranberry sauce, Celeste replied. He's the one who called me a thief in front of 20 witnesses. Sarah's grandmother stood abruptly, her chair scraping against hardwood. Morris! Her voice carried 60 years of marriage and something else, something that sounded like relief. Tell them the truth. The room held its breath. Morris Klein, who'd built a successful career on that stolen money, who'd raised 3 children and spoiled 7 grandchildren, who'd been called a pillar of the community at his retirement party, looked at his wife of 58 years and saw his reckoning reflected back. I needed the money, he whispered. Her father was going to promote his nephew instead of me. I was desperate. She was just there, convenient. I didn't think. You didn't think I was a real person, Celeste finished. You didn't think I mattered. Sarah looked at the untouched Christmas dinner, at her family's horrified faces, at the woman whose life her grandfather had stolen, and made her choice. Officers, she said quietly, I believe we have a confession to document. As Ramirez began reading Miranda rights and Kowalski called for backup, Sarah caught Celeste's eye. There was no triumph there, just exhaustion and something that might have been peace. Outside, snow began to fall, blanketing the world in white. Inside, the truth had finally come home for Christmas.